China is furious right now. And I'll tell you what, if you remove all the other, news about tariffs and stuff and just focus on the China part,
Yes.
they're so worried.
Yeah.
Their economy is already on the brink.
Sure.
And a tariff of this magnitude to their biggest trade partner, right? They need America, right? Is devastating.
Absolutely
It's
devastating. I
And
think what's even more devastating is this getting rid of de minimis.
Yes, and that's next.
Okay.
That's what I had next. So that's actually kind of part of this.
Yeah.
So there is this law. I don't know if you guys knew about this. We've talked about this. De minimis basically says that if something is under the value of $800 in a package,
It doesn't. Yeah, it's not subject to tariffs.
it's not subject to tax and
to
stuff.
import taxes and stuff. And also, not only that, it doesn't get inspected by customs.
Yeah, at least as much.
Yeah, no,
we'll
it's
do random spot checks,
if you've got a big expensive item and it comes in through the border,
Sure.
it gets inspected.
Yes.
If it's under $800, it gets thrown in a pile. They'll pick out 1 out of 10 million because billions of this stuff
right?
comes through from Temu.
So it's a huge
Yeah.
risk for drugs or contraband or anything bad that China's trying to
Oh
get.
yeah,
to
and they're
America.
sending in. We've covered this stuff that can kill you, like
Yeah.
poison, lead-based
Or
paint
shirts that
toys.
catch on fire.
Like hoodies that burn little girls, that kind of thing.
Yes. So this idea of ending this means that any small package would be subject to scrutiny, right? And the biggest part of this is that China has effectively destroyed a part of the American economy, and they've been
Yes.
doing this through economic warfare through companies like Temu and Shein.
Yeah.
And by using those companies, what they've done is been able to basically tax-free ship stuff from China cheaper than it would be for me to mail you something.
Yes.
Which is insane.
It's insane.
They've ruined mom and pop businesses. They've ruined small businesses. They've even encroached in on Amazon and big corporations.
Of course, I mean, they can't compete because they have to pay import
Correct.
duties.
So you're in a situation then where China's taking advantage of de minimis and they're sending in and just flooding the market, right? When you end this, and this is what Trump is looking like he's about to do, you've effectively stopped one of China's biggest economic warfare loopholes, period.
Yes.
Period.
So, I mean, guys, look, when it comes to the tariff things, I think we all have our
own perspective.
perspectives on the whole tariff thing. Whether it be good or bad, that's not what we're here to discuss. We're not interested in the domestic politics of it. We're, like you said, talking about China. And one thing that China has really been absolutely bending the world over with is this, well, at least the USA is with this de minimis thing. And again, I know we've explained this a million times, but if I were to make something here in America, if I sat in my backyard and I whittled something out of a twig, all right, and I wanted to send it to you in America, it would cost me more money to send it to you than a factory in China to send something of the same value. And that's what destroys all the local little businesses. And again, they can take my little thing. If people start buying my little whittled twig designs, they'll just copy it, mass produce it with the cheap labor, and send it using Temu or Shein to people's doors, and they beat me and kick me out of the market. And that's their model. And I've been to these big sort of meetings that happen in China. I was once invited to speak at one of them. It's kind of this big thing of Amazon sellers and stuff, right?
How to take advantage of America.
How to take advantage of America. And one of the main things that they do is they go to see what products are selling well. They find out where it's made, because it's always made in a factory in China. They go and deal directly with the factory. They copy it, they reverse engineer it, or they outright just steal the design straight from them. They offer them a kickback or something. And then they start making and producing it locally themselves and selling it on Amazon to undercut the original person who invented it and who's selling it on Amazon.
That's correct.
It's impossible to compete.
It is.
Absolutely impossible. So something like this is... Ending de minimis is probably the most positive thing that I can see coming out of this whole current situation, in my personal opinion.
I personally think the most positive thing is the fact that you can go to your Etsy shop and you can buy Winston's Whittled Twig.
Yeah, exactly. Which is never going to happen because it'll look terrible. Yeah.
I think you might be quite good at it. So this is hurting Temu and Shein massively.
Which is
in fact, what they're doing right now is trying to flood everything into America. They're going to have big warehouses of stuff that they have for a while.
Sure.
They can ship like domestically, but that'll run out.
Yeah.
This is great news.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something we've
de
been
minimis
pushing
is
for
something I've been
for a while.
pissed off about for a long time.
By the way, I just want to show you like a little bit of thought process, okay?
Yes.
I can explain this.
Okay.
Okay. We're not promoting this.
No.
In this effort, I was like, well, you know what? If we're going to cover this, we have our own perspective about how China's getting damaged by tariffs. We know.
Sure.
But I want to see like what the foreign ministry is saying in
Yes.
China. I want to see what their official response is because I can tell you they're furious, right?
Yes.
So I was trying to find a quote. So I went to their foreign ministry website.
Remember the Foreign Ministry of Public Affairs retweeted my anti-propaganda?
They did. Yes. We should have done a little callback. I just wanted to show you the Ministry of Foreign
This is
Affairs.
This is their English website for English people to go and see.
So to give you some perspective, if you're American, this is China's State Department. So if you went to the State Department website, can you just read this to
Okay,
the
so
audience?
the heading is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the People's Republic of China.
It has nothing to do with the
It's
leader.
got a massive picture of Xi Jinping
Right.
on the front, and it says, the 9th Asian Winter Games opens in Harbin. Xi Jinping attends the opening ceremony. That's the big thing. Now let's look at the side articles. Xi Jinping exchanges congratulations message, blah, blah, blah. The next one. Xi Jinping sends a message of condolence to the next one. Xi Jinping meets with chief advisor of the next one. President Xi Jinping meets with representative. I mean, I'll get me out of there for a second. Look at that.
It's insane. What does this have to do with the foreign ministry? He's not the foreign minister.
Can I just point out that every single article is about Xi Jinping?
Yes.
Every single article.
Can we go to the State Department website?
Yeah, okay, we'll go to the American State Department website.
I just want to show you what our equivalent looks like, okay? First I need to throw this in.
Yeah, Xi Jinping is my God.
I mean, this is what that reminded me of.
Yes.
I believe this is in Hong Kong.
Yes, this is in Hong Kong. I hope that's a parody.
I hope so.
Yeah.
This is the State
State
Department
Department.
of the U.S. Secretary Rubio's meeting Belgian Prime Minister De Wever. Joint statement on trilateral states, Japan and Republic of Korea, meeting in Brussels. Secretary Rubio's meeting with Danish Foreign Minister, right?
Read
Continue.
more about Belgium.
Belgium, Jamaica, Guyana, embassies. Secretary Rubio's travel to Brussels. Learn more. Joint statement on Myanmar earthquake response. Remarks on international women's. More foreign gang terrorists deported out of America. Can you tell me where once it had something about Trump
I mean, I think you have to go to CNN or something for that.
or another news?
Yeah, exactly. But not the government.
My point is the foreign,
Yes.
the U.S. State Department, the foreign ministry's
yes.
equivalent. It's not like it's not all dominated headlines about
Well,
Trump.
I mean, there's not one mention of him in the entire
That was my
thing.
point,
But
right?
Xi Jinping is every single article. Isn't it just crazy how much of a cult of personality is going on in China? The fact that their foreign ministry can only post about him.
Yes,
Isn't it a bit embarrassing that there's
it
nothing
is.
other than
It's-
him?
It's kind of shameful.
It is shameful. It's dictator worship. It's like worshipping a
It's
false idol.
beyond that, it's an idol.
Yes.
It's a commandment. It's
Yeah.
breaking a literal Christian commandment is what's happening.
Yeah, it's insane. But every time we see this, because I mean, when you go to a Chinese newspaper like China Daily, it's the same. If you go to their newspaper, it's just Xi Jinping this, Xi Jinping that. Xi
Yeah,
Jinping.
it's dominated.
Yeah, and it's like 80% of what's on the
Yes.
page. But when you went to that, it was 100%.
It's 100%.
It's like, what's going on in this world?
I just wanted to show.
Yeah, we had to show because when we were
CCTV?
looking it up. So, oh yeah, what's this? This is their response to the tariffs, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's listen.
On April 2nd Eastern Time, the U.S. issued an executive order announcing reciprocal tariffs on its major trading partners. It imposed a 34% tariffs on China, including its Hong Kong and Macau.
I just want to pause it here real quick. This is something that I'm sure they won't be happy I'm pointing out because I've seen through. I know what they're doing. We've discussed this. So this is not. It's not us reaching. We think we figured it out. Recently, China's been changing their websites and their design language of official reports.
Yeah.
To use this American blue color.
Well, that's
And
a color of trust.
It's
Banks use it.
Banks
and
use
stuff.
it, right? It's this kind of like before they would use red.
Well,
and
they
they'd use
do.
yellow. They still
if
do
you
in
take
China.
A look, any of the Chinese
Yes.
big, like, the whole of the people, and they do all that crap for the CPPCC,
Hammer and
whatever.
sickle.
Yeah. Wait, what is that nonsense?
CPPCC. CPPCC.
It's the most violent looking commie stuff you've
Yeah.
ever seen. Like
It's gold
bleeding
and red.
hammers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like-
gold
yeah.
and red is garish,
Yeah.
right? So it's garish shit you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when they have foreign out-facing outward things, they'll have different versions. So in fact, if you go to some of these Chinese state websites, you click the English version versus the Chinese version. The Chinese version is this garish hammer and sickle.
Red.
We will dominate the world.
Yeah.
It'll go to their
like
aerospace
soldiers.
website.
Yeah,
it's
remember.
missiles, and you click the English one. It's like shaking hands. And it's
Yeah,
like
shaking
doves.
hands and like doves and peace and stuff. You click on the Chinese version, it's like missiles aimed at America.
So one thing I've noticed, we noticed,
Yeah.
is, together, is we were like, they're using this American, when they do outward facing stuff
Yes.
to the foreign world, they don't use that design language. They don't use that imagery because they're not trying to intimidate. What they're trying to do is establish trust. So they're
Like-
using these American colors.
They just also copy and paste, let's be
Yes,
honest.
yes.
They're like, this is what they do, so we'll do
But
it.
it definitely has a reason,
Yeah.
logic behind it, because it's recently been changing a lot. Not this, but like the websites and official statements have been using this almost State Department blue.
Yeah.
You go to the State Department website in the
Yeah.
U.S., it's kind of that.
Yes.
And that's not what they do. That's not accurate.
Yep.
So I just wanted to, before we listen to the foreign minister's statement, I wanted to change it to be accurate.
I think we should do this going forward.
We should. And we will.
Okay, let's take a look. So what did you do?
We'll just made it accurate.
Okay.
The statement will be the same.
Region, do you have any comments? Under the pretext of a reciprocal, the U.S. has imposed additional tariffs on China and other countries' exports. This severely violates WTO rules and harms the rules-based multilateral trading regime. We firmly oppose this and will take firm measures to safeguard our legitimate rights and interests. We reiterate many times that trade and tariff wars have no winners and protectionism leads nowhere. We urge the U.S. to correct its wrongdoing and in the way of equality, respect and reciprocity to resolve trade and economic.
You know why China likes rules-based order? It's because they're always allowed to break the rules and no one else is.
There's no rule of law.
Yeah, no. And the rules-based order, have you seen, whenever it comes to like the Paris Climate Agreement or whatever, they never live up to their side of the bargain.
No.
When it comes to, we'll crack down on counterfeiting, they never do.
No.
But like, you're not allowed, I'll give you a good example of this. If we use any Chinese media thing, we get a copyright hit on our channel. There'll be like a content
They'll steal our
hit.
money.
Yeah, and it's like they take our money. We literally use one little thing. But in China, they're allowed to use any copywritten music. They'll use a Hollywood movie on state TV or something without paying for it. They'll use the music from Star Wars or anything. They use whatever they want, and there's never any repercussions.
Yes.
You know what's crazy is sometimes there'll be a clip where they've used like a scene from a Hollywood movie or something. And we take that clip and we put it into one of our videos. A Chinese company will copyright claim our video.
Yes.
Even
It's
though
that
it's
bad now.
even though it's a Hollywood clip
Yes.
that they used.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just like, so they love this whole idea of rules-based orders because it's rules for thee, not for
Yep.
me.
And let's copy the State Department look so we
Economic
can look trustworthy.
disputes.
And just pause it. Just going forward, this is not disingenuous. This is how it would look in China. So
Yes.
I made it look like it would in China because you shouldn't have a different outward-facing appearance.
Yes.
Stop tricking the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You're a very sick and very, very terrible government with the worst human rights record.
Correct.
Just show your true colors. It's blood red, and it's a
Yes.
hammer and sickle, and you suck.
Yes.
I do want to say you can read between the lines and read the transcript of this.
Mm-hmm.
They are very, very, very worried about this tariff. They're furious. In fact, they knee-jerk react so hard today
Yeah.
that they threw tariffs on the U.S., like reciprocal tariffs. They can't afford to do that. That's a very stupid move right
It's a
now.
very, very stupid move, yeah.
But you know what? It's very simple to explain. America, even if the tariffs end up being the worst idea ever or the best idea, who knows, right? What I will say
I
is
think everybody knows. Yeah.
we don't know.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't happened yet,
Sure.
right? The fruits of this or the whatever happens. My point of this is that America is a country that has already achieved wealth. China didn't achieve wealth. China can't afford to do trade wars because it's poor, right?
Yeah.
You can't go into battle not wearing armor. You're not ready for this kind of thing. You're not Japan that hit stagflation or whatever and already had a developed economy.
Yeah.
Japan already had a developed economy when their economy tanked.
Yeah.
They could suffer through a bunch of boring years where everything kind of sucked, but nobody was dying.
Yeah.
China can't afford to do that.
No.
China's got hundreds of millions of abjectly poor
But that's the
people.
problem is people think they can because they see
Yes.
all the propaganda. They see the skyscrapers and they see the high-speed rails and all the propaganda that's shoved down your throat. And China's got a space program and they're sending astronauts up there and stuff. And people think China's got it made. But it's really a bunch of bluster and it's a massive facade because a huge portion of China is still incredibly poor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the poor people in China are going to take the brunt of
And
the
they
suffering.
can. My point is China can afford to do that because the leadership can stamp on the poor people. Just like when people die in a disaster, they lie and say only 100 people died when in fact tens of thousands of people
Sure.
die. And then they arrest
Like
people to
COVID.
talk about it. Or like the Zhengzhou flood.
Yes.
Right? So many modern examples of them doing this. They can just make people disappear and stop.
Yes.
So that nobody faces reality.
That's
Right?
correct.
That's my point. They can't afford this.
Yeah.
They just can't afford this.
I remember you left my spirit with you.
They're
It's
so
like, oh,
bad.
you're sweaty and hot from
Yeah, it's like
delivering cheap food,
so
and you
bad.
come on in, you know.
Let's just say no one's jostling one loose when they watch these. You know what I mean? You have to have ASMR. You have to have fixing. You have to have organizing. You have to have a pretty woman. What was it? Just stand in the absolute smog and dance it out. Oh, and then she goes, "Oh, come here, you know. You want to drink some water?"
It's pretty accurate.
I'm here on the side of the road, puking in front of my shoe.
Yeah.
Taxi comes and hits me. I got the puking blues.